wearing this t-shirt this week to remind people that I'm doing this to raise awareness, not to gain attention. Because I do feel like I'm collecting diagnoses now. I feel like it's like I'm trying to collect letters after my name. Finlay Games, MECFS, POTS, and now it's PMR, otherwise known in my friendship circles as polyamorous arms. Yes, people, I now have polyamorous arms. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today, checking out what's going on with me, choosing one of my videos. If it's the very first time you've been watching my videos, then thank you very much for choosing one of my videos. My name is Finn, I've already said that. There would normally be a puppy here, but he is out today with his borrow my doggy aunt and uncle for the day. And so we have some peace and quiet. Right, so today is a bit of a catch-up about Finn and his ever-growing list of chronic illnesses and autoimmune conditions. Oh dear. You know, it's one of those things, isn't it, when you really want to know what's wrong with you, and then you really don't want to know, do you? So shall we have a bit of a backstory? Okay, right. So, today is the 23rd of February 2024, and on roundabout July, just after Glastonbury 2022, I developed pain in my arms. Now I have MECFS for anyone who's new, myalgic encephalomyelitis. I also have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I do get some muscular pain, joint pain as part of my ME every now and again. Usually when I've had a bit of a crash, I get like achy, like you get the flu aches. That's about it. But I woke up one morning in July with extreme pain down both of my arms, like I'd been lifting weights. For people that go to the gym, you know what it's like when you get the pain that's like delayed onset muscle soreness, like DOMS. So that lactic acid sensation. So like when you've been holding your arms up and it's just like, oh my God, that real awful pain. Now, we'd been to Glastonbury, we'd had a bit of a crash, we'd also had COVID, we'd moved home, we'd had everybody... we'd had a moving company who'd packed our boxes, moved our boxes, because I really can't do anything, and Chris isn't particularly healthy either. So I knew I hadn't lifted anything, but I have MECFS, which means my body is a drama queen. I can lift a cushion and put my back out, you know. So I thought perhaps I'd lifted something tiny and had a reaction. So at first I just left it. I thought maybe it's just part of a crash, it'll go. But a week later, I was still like this. My arms, I could barely move them. I could barely touch my face. You know, I could get them to about here, and that was it. When they were still for long, I couldn't unlock them. At night, I was getting burning, pinching, pins and needles, complete numbness in the middle of the night. It was just like, oh my God, what is going on? And I had to go to the doctor in the end. So I rang the doctor, and the physiotherapist saw me and they said it was tennis elbow. Because by the time I saw the physio, it was about 2 weeks, and the left arm had subsided substantially. Sorry. The left arm was still really bad, so they said it was tennis elbow. Now, I'd done some research. Tennis elbow in both arms is quite rare, but there you go. So they suggested some exercises for the tennis elbow and to wear the tennis elbow splint. And we tried that. Tennis elbow splint hurt to even put on my arm. It was absolute agony to even put on my arm. It wasn't working at all. No good. I was trying to do some of the exercises that were recommended for it. It seemed to be just making it worse. Wasn't doing any good. But I kept persevering. I tried a few other things. few other different types of splints. It was still doing like one arm, both arms, like that. Kept talking to the physiotherapist. She suggested a couple of other things. Wrist splints was suggested because of the ulnar nerve might be impacted because I was getting numbness in these three fingers. And it just persevered in both arms all the time. And it was this kind of deep, drawing ache right the way down my arms. They would lock. Just couldn't lift them. As long as I were moving, they would stay moving, but aching. As soon as they stayed still, they would lock. Just all the time, 24/7, the pain was there. Along with this burning pins and needles as well. Eventually, I got to see an actual doctor, which is so hard to see an actual doctor. Got to see an actual doctor. And I think I might have told you all about this at the time. That he said, it's another, unfortunately, this happens all too often with ME/CFS. I sat in front of the doctor and I said, this has just got really bad now. It had been a year at this point, this had been going on. And I explained how bad it was keeping me up at night. It was just getting me down, it was affecting my mental health because it was just horrendous. And he said, unfortunately with ME/CFS, the pain feels real, but it isn't. It was that. And then we have an unfortunate thing here called the body reprogramming course, which is so outdated and needs to be scrapped, whereby the idea is you can reprogram your body to not feel pain by telling yourself that the world is a good and safe place and the pain will go. And that was his solution to it. He didn't want to know, and he sent me home with the caveat that he would do some blood tests to see if there was any inflammation. I was so exhausted because I don't go anywhere on my own, but I was so needing a doctor. That was the first time in about a year I'd got myself to a doctor's appointment on my own. But I was so exhausted from doing that, I couldn't fight him, so I just nodded my head and came home distraught. I got the blood test done. They showed no inflammation. He rang back and I explained that I didn't want to do the body reprogramming clinic, that I'd spoken to the ME/CFS association, that they agreed with me that it was cognitive behavioural therapy, that it wasn't in line with the new NICE guidelines, that pain is real. ME/CFS isn't in your head, it's a neurological condition, it isn't a disorder of thinking, the pain does really exist, I require some help please. And he said, well, I can prescribe you some gabapentin because it's probably neuropathic pain, it's probably just nerve pain. And that was all he was willing to do. I was in such a wreck, I said that'll do then, we'll just try that. So I went on gabapentin. And I've been on gabapentin since, and it's done nothing except giving me additional brain fog and fatigue and make me feel quite awful, to be honest. But the experience at the GP that time really knocked me for six. My mental health, as you know, I've shared about a few times, has been quite poor this year. There's been a number of things that have added to it just really not being well. And gaslighting of GPs has been one of the major factors in this. I keep meaning to make a specific vlog about this, and I will at some point, because it needs addressing. This is something that ME Association and lots of other ME charities are raising a lot of awareness about, because it happens all too often. There is still an ongoing myth and misunderstanding about ME, of it being in your head, when we know now that this is a neurological condition of biological origin. It exists in the cells. People with ME, our bodies don't make energy properly. It's mitochondria in the cells. This isn't a disorder of thinking. No amount of thinking can make your body better. Yes, meditation, yes, all of these wellness tools can help support you with pain, with fatigue, with all your other symptoms you go through, because ME/CFS is far more than just fatigue. But it can't cure these things, and still you go to a GP and still they're of this mindset that it's a disorder of thinking, that people are malingerers, that people are just tired, that people just need to go and do some exercise. Exercise is damaging for people with ME/CFS. And now, because of long COVID, far more studies have been done into this that show that if you actually exercise with ME/CFS, there is physical damage seen in the body, because we do not tolerate exercise in the same way as people without ME/CFS do. So there's so much damage. So anyway, I used my limited energy to write a complaint, because I thought, I can't let this go. I can't be sat here in pain. Not just physical pain, but mental pain as well. Again, from like being let down from another GP. This wasn't my normal GP, by the way. So I wrote a letter of complaint, which really wasn't responded to particularly well. So I wrote a letter of complaint about my letter of complaint not being responded to, because I'm a stubborn git and I hate injustice. I mean, my whole channel really is about injustice. If you see all the videos I post about, my whole thing is about, I will not sit down when discrimination, stigmatization and injustice happens. I hate it. It's just not right. It's not right at all. So yeah. So I wrote a complaint letter about my complaint letter. And then Chris, bless him, said, we can't leave you in pain like this. I mean, I wake him up at night crying because I roll over and my arms are like buzzing and like I'm moaning in my sleep. So he said, you've got to go again. So I contacted the GP, the doctor's surgery, and the head of the GP practice rang and said, we need you to come in. I think we need you to come in and we can talk about all of this. Oh my goodness. He was amazing. Chris came with me, ready to spit bullets, as Chris does, but he didn't need to, because this GP was amazing. He's clearly read all of my complaint letter, and he was really lovely in saying, look, we know ME/CFS is real. We know these conditions exist. Just because we can't yet have a biomarker for them, and because the research is behind the times, doesn't mean anything. We know it's real. And we've been really remiss in not doing proper tests with this. We need to get you an MRI scan for a start, which they should have done ages ago. So they're still going to MRI my neck to make sure there's nothing trapped there, because especially if I've got these trigger finger thing happening. But he said, what I'm wondering is whether you've got something called Polymyalgia Rheumatica, because it sounds very much like what's going on with you. And this is it's not arthritis, but I think it's in the arthritis family, but it's not arthritis. It's inflammation of the muscles and the connective tissue, and it affects the arms, and it could also affect the legs and the girdle point around your hips and into your thighs. And I've had intermittent problems with my legs as well. Not constantly like I have with my arms, but on and off. And he said the diagnostic test for it really is to put you on steroids, and if you start experiencing relief from it on about 3 or 4 days, that pretty much tells us that it's polymyalgia rheumatica. So I saw the doctor on the Friday, and he prescribed me Prednisolone, 20 milligrams. Started taking that on the Friday night. On the Tuesday, I thought there was a bit of difference, but I also didn't want to overthink it, because I was really hoping it was, because polymyalgia rheumatica is curable, and to have something curable would be really lovely for a change. So I kind of really hoping it was it, so that it was treatable, because the other thing it could be is, of course, fibromyalgia or neuropathic pain. But on Wednesday, I woke up after having the best night's sleep I've had in ages. There was hardly any pins and needles in the night, and I woke up, and for the first time in ages, my arms weren't locking up in the morning. And throughout Wednesday, there was just far less aching, far less locking up. Like if I sit down on the sofa for a bit and then move my arm, it's just proper locked for a bit, and I have to move before it loosens. Just far less buzzing in general, far less burning, a marked difference. And then as a week went on, it got even better still. I'd say, like, out of 10, where it's a 10 usually, by Wednesday it was a 7, and where I am now, it's probably at a 4 or a 5. Definitely a difference. So the doctor rang to catch up, told him this, and he's like, yeah, well then that's it. That's what you have. You have polymyalgia rheumatica. That's what you have. And it took me ages to actually be able to pronounce that diagnosis, hence the polyamorous arms that I've been telling everybody I have. So this is a condition that can go into remission by itself. You basically take steroids, and then after a couple of months on steroids, you then start to taper them down by like a couple of, some people go by half a milligram, some people would go by a milligram a month. And you start going down. If you have any pain, you stop tapering and you stay on that dose. But by tapering down a milligram a time, you're off them. So a lot of people can go into remission in as little as 2 years. So I could be symptom free of this in a couple of years and be off steroids, which would be amazing. So for once, I might have a condition that I can actually get rid of. So it's an autoimmune condition. So has this turned up because I've got ME/CFS? I don't know. I'm trying to find out if there's other people out there. So if you're somebody that's got polymyalgia rheumatica and ME/CFS, I'd really love to hear from you. It usually affects people 50 and above. It usually affects women and people assigned female at birth. So that's likely why I've got it. I'm only just 50. Happy birthday to me. But I've joined a Facebook forum, and it does seem that lots of younger people do get it. So it's not just older people. Men do still get it, just not as many, as in assigned male at birth people and men. So yeah, I'd really like to hear from anybody who has ME/CFS and polymyalgia rheumatica, because A, I'd quite like to hear like if those kind of two go together, and B, managing the two. Because obviously I'm trying to manage the side effects of the steroids with ME/CFS. I'm catching every cold going at the moment. Managing the two is quite hard. But yeah, I'm just so relieved. I'm so relieved to have found, well, this GP. I've never actually met him before. We've spoken on the phone. He was just really, really good. Really, really good. And it just shows what a difference it makes. Because I understand that this could have just been part of my ME. But what should have been done was, rather than just to just treat me as badly as that first GP said and just be like, well, with ME, the pain's not real, off you go. But even if it was part of my ME, tests should have been done, other things should have been ruled out. It's just really poor that this happens, you know. I think people look at my history that don't know me, of mental health history, trans history, and then just make an assumption, you know. And people make an assumption with people with ME/CFS all too often, you know, and they've left me in this pain for 1.5 years, where other things could have been investigated and I could have been on this journey much earlier and not have had all of this pain. So I'm still waiting for the MRI to be done, just to double check what else is going on, because this numbness, I mean, I put my contact lenses in, and after having my arm up like this for a couple of minutes, pins and needles start, and I start to lose all down here. Same as when I'm chopping veg and stuff, it starts to go numb. When I'm writing, it goes numb and pins and needly. So that might be something else going on in my neck up here. So we're going to rule that out as well. But yeah, I mean, so far on the steroids, there's been lots of improvement. I mean, this arm's been the worst at the moment, and this is now so much better. This arm, ironically, has got a bit worse. Don't know why that is, but it has. But yeah, the biggest improvement in it from the steroids so far is the locking. It's not doing as much locking. I mean, when I talk, I move my arms quite a lot. So what's happening when I'm talking is I've got the ache that's going on, but obviously it's not locking. But when I'm just sat watching the television, I go to move and it's like, oh my God, my arm won't move, but that's not happening. Actually, when I went for my birthday, I noticed it the first time, because somebody drove off in a car and I went like that and waved, and normally my arm would not shoot up straight in the air like that. I'd get it to about there and that would be it, you know. So I've noticed a lot of times. And with Pip, I throw a ball in a certain way because I can't throw it, and I've noticed that the movements with that are so much easier. So the biggest difference on the steroids so far are definitely the unlocking. My hands are still very stiff, but the actual arm is much better. and the pain is so much better because it felt just felt like squeezing, burning, ringing, drawing. Oh, it's horrible, just constantly all down your arm, and just to have that even lessened by half is just, oh, it's just bliss, absolute bliss. You know, just one simple doctor just taking you seriously is amazing. It really is. So yeah, I have polyamorous arms, and hopefully a way forward out of it. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, but there we go. So that's my little update, because somebody asked about the pain that I'm in with it. So it isn't. I mean, it still could be part of ME, couldn't it? Oh, I don't know. I find my body and my health quite confusing these days. It's a lot to manage. So yeah, anybody out there who's got this condition who can offer me some words of advice, I'd be very grateful. Anybody that's got this condition and ME/CFS, I especially welcome any words of advice because managing the two, and honestly, I just keep getting poorly. I mean, I'm going to go back to masking a lot, as much as that makes me. I have quite a lot of problems with breathlessness, which is why I don't mask a lot, because my ME makes me quite breathless. But I think I'm going to have to go back to masking because I'm just picking up colds because of the steroids. I'm just getting a cold all the time, and a tooth extracted, and that's just not healing because of the steroids, I think. So this is a problem. But anyway, I'm waffling. I'm going to stop now. That's my catch up. Yay me! I have more letters after my name, but I can move my arms more, which is amazing. Yeah! That's it for this week, folks. Take care of yourselves. Hope all is well with you. Do let me know in the comments how you are. Always love to hear. Mwah! See you soon.